Okay, here is the actual student handbook. You can see it's page 9. All right. Okay, and if I'm looking at the video things, okay, it's worth 20 marks. There's 3 of them, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But what I want to sort of focus on down here is the idea of reflection. What's important about a reflection is not so much what you did, but why you did it and what it means. Okay, so generally, if you think about this morning, I brushed my teeth. That's not really what we want to hear about. It's okay to say I brushed my teeth, but the question is, why did you brush your teeth? Did you do it because your parents made you, because you're worried about your teeth, because you got stinky breath? Any one of those is the more reflective reasoning that we're looking at here. It's the why. And ultimately, we tend to ask you, so what does this mean in the future? Well, if I take care of my teeth, I'll have nice teeth in the future, etc. Now, if we go down here a little bit, you can see we have 2 choices for the reflective journals. We're going to be looking at the video choice here, and I just want to point out that we're supposed to have approximately 5 minutes. It could be a little bit shorter, a little bit longer. Since it's the first time we're doing it, we'll see how it goes. The marking, of course, by and large, if you answer the questions and you actually reflect, remember, you answer why you did stuff, then you should have no problem getting good marks. So let's look at number 1. Okay, the first question says, introduce yourself to your tutor. What culture do you most closely identify with? Discuss factors which influence or are influencing how you view your own culture and other people's cultures. And then if you look a little bit further down, there's some noise here about expectations, which basically says, so if you will, it's tips on how to answer it. You know, clearly indicate the culture you think you belong to. Identify a number of pertinent factors. Now, this particular question is actually a reference to the tutorial activity you did over here. See, there's CT did there. Mine's still blank, but never mind. Here. So yours should already be done, but let me do mine. I'm just going to put Jeff here. And notice we don't want you to talk about everything under the sun, but what do you think are the critical factors? For me, I think the factor that I'm Canadian, the factor that I'm a Mennonite, which is a small religious group, are very important in who I am. Another factor would be parents, because in many ways, I think my parents influenced me. Partly that's connected to this, partly it's connected to this, but my parents are different too. My mother and father especially are quite different from each other, but I can see both of them having a big factor in my identity. So these 3, I think, are the most important. I mean, you could add other things here if you wanted to. I mean, you could talk about school, or perhaps an important person in your life, like, I don't know, a priest or an uncle, who knows what, a friend maybe. Okay, but I won't be talking about those. I'm going to be talking about these. All right? So when I make my plan, I'm going to come back here and say how these 3 things affected me. Being Canadian, being Mennonite, and how my parents affected me. I'm not going to put too much more detail here, because then it just becomes a written report. But this is the things I'm going to talk about. So let's go back to page 9. Okay. All right. Or page 10 is where this question is. So that's the first question. So what I also have to say is, how does being a Canadian then affect how I look on Canada and how I look on other cultures? In this case, I'll be talking about Singapore. Now, the next question, discuss 2 ways your identity is similar or different to other members of your group. Okay, I'm a teacher and you're a student, but so I'm not going to use the word group. I'm going to use teaching team. Okay, basically our teaching team has foreigners and it has Singaporeans. And I'll talk a little bit about that. In fact, I'll do my planning right here. I'll just make a note, Singapore versus Ang Mo. Okay, we have other foreigners as well, but I'll just stick to those. So I have to identify 2 similarities or differences, similarities and differences, and then talk about what it means. All right. Finally, down here, I'm going to make sure my camera's still pointing at the right thing. Discuss your expectations. 2 challenges that you anticipate in TNS, particularly the residential stay. Okay, so I'll talk about 2 things that are important to me. Motivating students, which is sort of in general related to the subject, and disciplining students, which is more related to the residential stay. Okay, and then if you look at the reflection, just be honest, Clearly list the 2 challenges you face and 2 benefits. Oh, okay, notice it didn't actually say benefits. Oh, here, reflect on how you think you will benefit. Okay, so how is this going to benefit me? So I have to talk about that. Make sure you remember to do that. Let's go back to the other one. Make sure I've answered everything here. Discuss 2 ways. Oops. Your identity is similar to or different from the other members of your group. So all I have to say is talk about similarities and differences. I don't have to talk about good advantages and disadvantages, similarities and differences. This one here, I have to say, who am I? And how does it affect how I view, in this case, Canada? And this time other cultures, and I'll probably use Singapore as my specific example. Okay, so that's my notes for what I'm gonna do. And that's all I think you really need to do, because then it shouldn't be such a problem to talk. Okay, so this particular video is just over 5 minutes, so that's okay. The next video, I'll give you a sample of what a video reflection should look like.